over the summer, I recorded an episode, and this was when the Pfizer FDA approval came out, and we were hearing this term new normal. So I did an episode about that, and then I just never published it. I said, you know what? People don't care. People are just going to do whatever they're going to do. They're not going to pay attention. They're just going to kind of go with the flow, accept what's happening, and that's it. But then I said, no, you know what? I care. And I'll publish that episode, and I'm going to publish this one too, and say what I actually really want to say. Because I really feel like I never saw the movie, but I know the theme of this movie, Groundhog Day, is that the same thing just keeps happening every day over and over again. And I feel like it's like a combination of Groundhog Day, the same thing just keeps happening again and again, and an episode of Scooby-Doo where, in Scooby-Doo, you got these kids and they're have a situation that's not really normal, and they're picking up all the clues and they're investigating and they're finding out, hey, these are all the things that are not normal. Let's put it all together and we'll figure out who's behind it. And then the climax of the show is always 9 times out of the 10, the person's wearing a costume or a mask, and they pull the mask off and they reveal the culprit, who it is. And I feel like we are constantly getting just before the climax of revealing who it is, and it never happens, and we just keep going with the flow. We don't open our eyes. We aren't awakened. We aren't enlightened. We aren't knowing the truth. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. So before I get into that, I just want to kind of recap some of the things that aren't normal. And I'm no public health expert. I'm not some official person, but I am an American citizen. I have years of experience, and I have my education and my thoughts and my ideas, and I'm just going to put out there what I feel is not normal. So just a quick recap: using a PCR test as a diagnostic test is not normal. That was never done. PCR tests were always screening tests. And the screening test is a preliminary test that you would get. If that comes back positive, then you would go and get a diagnostic test. Suddenly, we're using PCR tests as diagnostic tests. Natural immunity being completely disregarded. That is not normal. That is always was taken into effect. If you had natural immunity, you don't need a vaccine. That's part of the normal way. So to just completely disregard it and vaccinate people who already have natural immunity, not normal. Wearing a mask as if it's a fit tested respirator and putting all your eggs in that basket, that's not normal. A mask is not a fit tested respirator. A fit tested respirator will protect you against viral exposure. A mask, it's not completely useless. It will protect you against dust. It will protect you against droplets, like some spit going in your face, in your mouth. And it can, partially protect. I think I read a study that it was like 30% effective against certain particles protecting. So it's not completely useless, but we're looking at it as if it's a fit tested respirator, which is a completely different animal. That's not normal. That's just not normal. I mean, that's pretty obvious that walking around with masks is not normal. What else? A vaccine being made in just a couple of months versus years. Everybody knows that's completely not normal. You need at least 9 months to see if how it's gonna affect pregnant women. And that takes time. So this just completely not normal that you would make a vaccine this quickly. Huge not normal that we were told the results of the experiment before the experiment was over. So it's like going to a boxing match where you sit down and, it's in the second round and they're still fighting. Oh, well, we're going to tell you who won already. What do you mean? The fight didn't even end. Like, what? That's exactly what happened. When you look at the clinician's guidelines for Comirnaty, the dumb name of the Pfizer vaccine that doesn't seem to be going over that well, they were still in clinical trials from December 2020 to March 2021. But during that whole time, we were being told the vaccine was safe and effective. How? How is it safe and effective? Your research is still going on. Half of your people are still getting placebo up until March 2021. That is completely not normal. Also, in the clinical data, it says anaphylaxis was observed in mass vaccination outside clinical trials. What? What do you mean? mass vaccination outside clinical trials. Not normal. Telling pregnant women it's okay to take it. Go ahead and go ahead and take it. We have no data on teratogenic effects. We have no real, I read the research, I read the study that they based it off of. I'm not going to go into all the details. They didn't have real research. It didn't have real data on it. But they go ahead and tell pregnant women it's okay. Pregnant women shouldn't take Advil, but they can go ahead and take this vaccine. Not normal. Not normal. Media blackout on anything possibly contrary to the vaccine. I mean, my YouTube videos gotten taken down. I'm nobody. They take my YouTube videos down about information I'm sharing about the vaccine. The whole concept of a global vaccine is completely bizarre and completely not normal. There are some people, like I said, that can't take Advil. Some people that can't take Tylenol. There's no drug or medical treatment that's for everybody. There's certain circumstances that people shouldn't partake of it, like if you're allergic to it. So the fact that we're having this global vaccine and not stratifying by age, gender, population, whatever population risk factor, we're just everybody across the board. That is completely not normal. So of course, it's not normal, so we're going to have the new normal. And where I talk about in the other video that this new term, the new normal, was coined by a drug company and then picked up by the Global Preparedness Monitoring Board. So we're this global organization is putting this term new normal on us. So let's stop there for a second and let's do this. Pretend that you're a parent. Maybe you really are a parent, maybe you're not, but just pretend you're a parent. And I'm going to give you this scenario and think of what your answer would be. So let's say your kid, teenager, all of a sudden you notice your kid's using a lot of mouthwash all the time. Normally they really didn't do that. And so that wasn't normal. You're like, what? They're brushing their teeth a lot. Okay, that's great. Maybe they're just, interested in dental hygiene. I don't know, but this isn't what they normally did. They're washing their hands a lot too. You see that they're just always, washing their hands and putting, scented hand sanitizer on. Also, they're kind of like missing a lot of times. All of a sudden, they're not in the house, or they go out somewhere. They seem to have to like do things like real quick, run here, run there, and then you notice that their clothes smell like smoke. What is it as you as a parent? What are you thinking? Now, of course, they go and vape now, so this isn't like the most up-to-date scenario, but you get the point. So you're going to think, my kid's smoking cigarettes, what's going on? Well, you're a conspiracy theorist. That's not happening. This is just the new normal. This is what your kid does now. It's the new normal. There's no conspiracy. There's no theory behind it. So Noah was a conspiracy theorist until it started raining. I love that quote. That's from Dr. Vladimir Zelenko. And he's anything you can watch from him on YouTube. He's a great doctor. I really respect about Dr. Vladimir Zelenko. But when I say the word conspiracy theory, I want to ask you a question. What the thoughts that come to your mind when I say conspiracy theory, are they negative? Or are they positive? And why is that? Because I think most of us have a negative connotation of that word conspiracy theory. Why is that? Why do we think that? Why would it be, that would be a good thing. Like, wow, somebody's conspiring against me. I need to know this information. If they're conspiring to kill me, how am I going to survive if I don't know what's going on? So conspiracy theories, they would be a good thing. That would help us in our survival. Let's try a couple other examples. So what do you think of if I say the word gay? Do you think of happiness and dancing and festivities that are lighthearted and happy and joyful? Or do you think of something else? And there's no right or wrong answer here. What about if I say the word discrimination? Do you think about discerning whether something would be healthy or not healthy to eat, or somebody would be safe or unsafe to go on a date with? Do you think of it in terms of discerning things for your own personal safety and benefit? Or do you think of something else? What about when I say the word choice? What do you think about with that? Are you thinking about like this is just how a decision making process I make, or perhaps did you think of that something with reproductive health or women's rights, quote unquote? And the reason I'm doing this is just so you can think about, hey, certain words have attached meaning to them, and certain words have attached meanings to us because that's from our lived experience, right? And then other words have attached connotations to them because someone else wants us to have that. Okay, so there's that. Now think about this. The COVID vaccine has real side effects and real people have died from it. That's a fact. But why don't we hear about that on the news? Why don't we hear about any cautions? Why are we hearing only positive messages? Safe and effective, safe and effective. Get your vaccine, get your vaccine. Why do we only hear that? Why does it seem that there's a media blackout on important information? Well, Dr. Peter McCullough, back in 2020, he stated that there was something called a Trusted News Initiative that came out in December of 2020. And basically what this was, what did he say? Basically, there was an agreement between major media outlets to squash any news about early treatment or vaccine safety issues. Now, you might think, how could that be? How could all the news and information that we're receiving, be giving us one message that one person wants us to have? Well, if you look at the networks and how they're owned, it's pretty easy. There's about 6 companies that, and I'll put this infographic on the screen that someone created, that show the ownership of all the 6 companies that own all the broadcasting networks, all the media, the radio, the news and newspapers, even the internet sources of information that we're getting. These are all owned by just a few people. So how easy would it be to just make a conference call with 6 other people, the heads of those 6 companies, get on the phone with them, tell them, hey, any information that we don't want to get out, make sure you stop it and don't publish it. And this is the idea. This is the format that we want you to follow. These are the things that are okay. These are the things that are not okay. Do it, and that's that. And then those 6 people, they send out an email to all their supervisors underneath them, instructing them to instruct everybody else. And the word trickles down from the top tier all the way down. And then we just happen to see on the news everybody using the same exact words, the same exact phrases. You've probably seen when we're seeing like on YouTube a compilation of just the same exact little catchphrase, a little buzzword being used on every network by all different newscasters. You think that's a coincidence? That's not a coincidence. Another example that I can think of is if you saw the documentary about the Jeffrey Epstein that Netflix did. In there, a woman is a reporter, and she did a whole investigative report on Jeffrey Epstein, and she wanted to publish it. I can't remember the name of the publication, but the publishers wouldn't publish it. It wasn't on the list of okay things to publish, or maybe they gave some other reason as an alibi, but it was basically wasn't on the list of okay things to publish, and it never got published until later on we were finding out about Epstein. Low fruit. There is a control level that is not for our benefit. Okay, it's basically the entire media, the TV, the internet, the radio, all of it, with little exceptions here and there. Maybe some things get through, but for the most part, the majority of it is just a messaging system for evil, and it's programming. And it even says programming, so this is where I'm saying when we did those examples before, and you had maybe certain thoughts attached to certain words, they could be coming from this programming. So you know, back in the 50s in the movie theaters, they were doing like during the movie, they would flash up images of Coca-Cola and popcorn and whatever it was to kind of get people's mind thinking about going to the concession stand and buying their food. And people found out about it and was like, hey, this isn't fair, you know, we came to see this movie and you're messing with our minds to try to get money out of us, you know. I think a lot of people might remember that. So do you think that they got the slap on the wrist and they said, okay, never will we do anything like that again? No, no, that kind of research and that kind of uh, manipulation of people's minds not only is still going on, but it's evolved to levels that we can't even comprehend. And it's not just through the media. So let me go back for a minute. Let me just go way back until about 1997 when I was in nursing school and I was doing my homework. I was reading my textbook and I read a line, and it was just, you know, this was a science textbook for nursing school. And it was, I can't even remember what class it was, but it was a paragraph, very scientific, blah, 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 blah. The sexual response in children, blah, 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 blah. I don't remember any of the other, what it was about, but it was just like that one sentence was thrown in there about the sexual response in children. And I said, whoa, 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 stop the press right here. What the hell are you talking about? The sexual response in children? Why would you know that? And how would you know that? And why would you even put that in a textbook? And so this was, you know, this was back in the late 90s. So I had to go to the edge of the end of the chapter and look up the citation of where this comes from, this information. So I'm looking up the citation, and the internet was like not really well developed at that time. It was barely like user friendly. So I actually had to go to the library and start looking things up and doing some research. And I found that it was the Alfred Kinsey Institute, and that he was like the father of you know, sexual research and sexuality and human sexuality. And he's like regarded as this, you know, wonderful researcher who has developed this body of knowledge about sexuality to, you know, help humankind. And he's just wonderful. So then I'm doing some more research on him, and it comes to find out that through the testimony of the victims, okay, this man, Alfred Kinsey, what he was doing was he was paying fathers to rape their little daughters, okay? And after they raped their daughters, to record in a notebook a rubric of responses, and he had like a grid of, you know, what you needed to fill out, and these men would fill that out, and then Kinsey would come to their house and pay them and collect the data. And this is where he was getting his information from. And this was a long time ago. I don't even know what year it was, maybe 50s. And it didn't stop. His institute is still in the University of Illinois, I believe. And he's still respected and regarded as, you know, this valid researcher. And this is how he got his research. So I was disgusted and appalled by this, as I think most normal people would be, unless they're part of the new normal. And so I remember being in class, and it came up that, you know, dealing with patients, you have to be mindful of persons who have been sexually abused and traumatized, and that certain things can trigger that, and that 25% of the population has been abused as children. And I said, whoa, 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 stop. Again, stop. What did you just say? 25% of the people are sexually abused as children? That's every 1 in 4 people. I think it was like 30 people in my class. And I said to my classmates, I said, there's like 6 of us in here that went through that in one room. And what? Like, that's not a coincidence. That's not, and then I really started thinking from that moment on, like, this isn't just somebody, you know, each family has like one weird uncle that's just weird. There's something much more to this. And so from that point on until fast forward 2021, so whatever, how many years that is, that's been on my radar, and I've been researching and gathering information and being like the kids in Scooby-Doo, just looking at, hey, wait, what's that? That doesn't sound right, or just gathering all this information together, and basically, and I have a list of certain things that if you wanted to research on your own and you wanted to look into some of these topics, I could provide that and you could look into it to just kind of, it's hard for me to give you like just a quick snapshot of the information that I have, because it's so many years of information. When Pizzagate first happened, I was like, oh, thank you, Lord, somebody's gonna finally do something about this. I mean, you look at the child pornography industry, it's an industry. It's an industry. Think about that. Child pornography is the rape and abuse and torture of children is an industry. It has its own infrastructure. It has its own money exchange. It has its own people, technology. It has its own resources as far as human resources, people producing it, people selling it. This is something that is existing in our society, and it has its own structure, just like as in the restaurants, just like how you have restaurants and you have people that supply them and people that go to them, and there's money being exchanged, and you have, shipping and trucking, and you have everything related to that needs to make that restaurant go on. There's the same thing that exists for child pornography. That is a disgrace. And we're all just completely oblivious, thinking, oh, well, yeah, I guess there's a couple snuff films out there and there's some child porn, but not my problem. Well, whose problem is it then? If our children are not our problem, whose problem is it? We're just going to ignore it and pretend it doesn't happen. It's not real. But that's, and it's just that even in itself, that really is the most worst and egregious part for me, that of this whole system. I know I'm kind of all right, so let me get to the part where in Scooby-Doo they take the mask off and we see who the real culprit is. Okay, so we're talking about the vaccine, we're talking about the stuff, they did this, they do this, they do that. Who's they? Who is they? Right? All of us do it, right? We're always talking about, oh, they're going to do this now, they're going to do that now, and this law is out and that, what? Okay, what is the government? No, not really. Maybe, but not really. They work for the one person. And who is it? Let's take the mask off. It's the father of lies. It's the prince of this world, the power of darkness, the murderer from the beginning, the old serpent, Lucifer, who was an angel and fell and became Satan. Yes, that's who it is. It's Satan. And all of they are his workers of iniquity, the people who willingly, unknowingly, knowingly, various degrees, are doing his work. And that's the truth. Now, you might be rolling your eyes and thinking, oh, great, here's she going to be all holy roller, religious, whatever. And I totally understand you. And I've heard people say, like, I don't believe in, I know there's a God, but I don't believe in religion because there's so many hypocrites. It's hypocrisy. They just want money. You got people abusing kids. And I 100% agree with you. That is absolutely valid concern. And another episode, I do want to talk about that, because it's really important not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because this is the world we live in. Look around you. It's not normal. Everything that's going on. You see when something isn't normal. And so that means there's something going on. If it's not making sense, it's not adding up, either we just are missing a piece of information that will help us understand it, or it's lies. It doesn't make sense because it doesn't make sense. It's a lie, right? Like how you catch your kid out there, they're lying and you catch them. That's how this works, right? So I'm not trying to convince you to believe what I believe. I'm just telling you what I believe. And I think really this is the most important thing, because when things don't make sense in life, we can become like depressed and get to despair. We can become confused and disoriented, and there has to be a way of rectifying that. And it is the way, and the truth and the life is through Jesus Christ. Again, you might be, kind of like, okay, whatever, I don't want to hear about this, but this is the truth. There's only one truth, right? And that is the truth. I'll talk about that in another podcast, but basically what we're seeing and what we're living in now is the workers of inequity really kind of dropping their disguise and their veil. They've been there all along. This has been going on since the beginning. So when you read the Bible and you let's say you don't even believe in Christianity, that's fine. I respect that. We're living in these times that are crazy and not normal, and all these things that are going on, they're not sitting right in our soul. And it's almost like, I wish there was like a book or a reference that we had, like an instruction manual or something that would give us some insight into what's going on here. And there is the Bible, right? This is, even if you don't believe in Christianity, the Bible still has extremely important historical information in there that can give you insight. Even if, so the book is on different levels. You can read it just literally and understand certain things about the world and history, and you can also read it with your spiritual eyes and understand a spiritual meaning that goes levels and levels and levels deep, that is in the supernatural realm, right? People like to watch these paranormal shows and blah 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 and whatever, but that's just all frivolous small things that don't even help you or do anything. You can actually find supernatural things that will impact your life and help you and give you peace and help that all that despair and that disorientation, and dissolve that. And you can find it through the Bible. But let's just look at some historical things, what they were doing back then. They were, Jewish child sacrifice. They even, at one point, would murder babies and then wear the dead babies around their necks. This is from the Bible. I'm not making this up. They would human trafficking. They would sell humans like cattle and use them for prostitution, for slavery, for different purposes. So, there was just a bloody mess of massacre and sacrifice all over the place throughout the Bible. Now, do you think that that stuff stopped and it just went away? I mean, this is the deception that we are under, and the delusion that we're under, that, oh yeah, I know that stuff happened in the past, but it doesn't happen anymore. No, it's over. So you look at the Christianity, now I'm not talking about anything spiritual here. I'm just saying, like, before, in the BC times, there was no Christianity. After that, there was Christianity. So if you look at that, like, just as that, Christianity grew and grew and grew over the past 2,000 years to where you have a church pretty much in every neighborhood. At least one. I mean, some neighborhoods you got, 10, 15 churches, right? So the Christian movement, if you want to call it that, was growing since the time of Christianity. Satan was there before that. He had a head start. Do you think that he didn't grow and grow? Do you think that he was just like, whatever, my work's done, I'm over? No, it's not. There's a battle between good and evil. This is like every Marvel comic show or whatever. It's good and evil. Well, that's what it is. That's what actual life is too. There's just this battle of good and evil going on. So that the Christian church grew all that time, so was the demonic realm also growing, but it has to hide itself and veil itself and do it in secret. And so when you look at a map of an area with churches, just know for every one of those churches, there's also demonic activity going on. Maybe even sometimes in the churches. God help us. So, and the reason I say that is because I have a lot of examples and testimony and evidence of that. So I understand people who are skeptical of churches. I understand it and I respect it. And like I said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There is truth and hope. Okay. We'll talk about that in another episode. But what I want to say is basically that don't be deluded that evil doesn't exist. Don't be deluded that there isn't a conspiracy going on. There is a conspiracy going on. There is. You look in the Bible, what happened when Jesus was born, right? The 3 wise men, everybody knows the 3 wise men came and they brought their gifts and blah, blah, blah. But remember, they stopped off at the king, and the king got tipped off that this savior was born, and he was like, wait a minute, this is a threat to me, and all this other stuff went on. And so he basically put out a decree and murdered everybody that was, every male baby that was 2 and under. So yes, the birth of Christ is Christmas, it's a wonderful thing, but also don't forget what was happening. Herod murdered all these babies because he wanted to murder Jesus. So from the moment Jesus was born, there was a conspiracy against him to kill him. Right? And even through his life and everything, they were conspiring to kill him. So their conspiracy was going on. And of course, we know that he was killed. He was killed on the cross. He did die. And then, of course, he resurrected. But I don't want to go into the spiritual stuff right now. That conspiracy to murder Christ, which in historical events we know happened, that was the evil attempting. Of course, it backfired because it ended up well, like I said, I don't want to go into all the spiritual part, but so I'll leave that out and save that for another episode. But basically, the Jews conspired to kill Christ, and they did. And this is basically the evil against the good, and that's still what's going on today, right? So there's good in the world. There is good in the world. God created the world, and everything he created is good, including us. Yes, we do sin. None of us are exempt. We all sin, but we are still have that goodness. So either when we die, our soul, and you ask any little kid what happens when you die, they know. And we all tell our kids, oh, grandma died, but she's in heaven. It's not a fairy tale that we tell our kids to comfort them. It's real. There's eternal life. And I'm not going to talk about the spiritual part right now, but it is important. And basically the battle is for our souls. Is our soul going to go to the good side or the evil side? And that was the battle that was going on then in the biblical times, and it never stopped. It didn't just, okay, that was the end of the book, so that's the end of that. And no, that's not how it works. All right, so this is what I'm saying, and it is a spiritual topic, and I'm talking about it in terms that are not spiritual, which is weird, but I don't want to freak anybody out unnecessarily, because I want to take the time to explain it in detail so that you can possibly consider the spiritual side if it's something that you haven't considered because of all your reasons, which are valid and good reasons. But I want to present a different perspective to you that might open the possibility that your soul and even your future generations can be saved. So we'll talk about that more in the next time, but that's really what I wanted to say. Like, yeah, all this stuff is not normal. The new normal is fake, and this is all just a battle of evil and good, and it's manifesting itself in what we're seeing in our own days and our own times. In the history books, however many years from now, are recording what we're doing now. and people will look back in hindsight in 2020 hindsight and be able to see so clearly what's happening. Like how we can look back in periods in history with 2020 hindsight and be like, well, that's what happened. And you know what? If I was there, I would have done this. But you know what? This is the time that we live in. These are the days. And there's evil in our days, real evil. And it can only be fought through Jesus Christ. So next time I'll talk about the spiritual part, because it's really hard to say all these things and stay on a level that doesn't go into the supernatural, but just stays in the natural, which for me, in the science background, you know, the fusion of the two is the only real way to understand everything, really. So that was it. Happy New Year. Have a good one.